And so right there on the spot, I had to improvise a scene where I decapitate somebody.
Aye, aye.
What's even more awkward is I don't have a degree in theater. I have a degree in elementary education. I used to be an elementary school teacher.
What do you think Art would say if he could speak?
I think he would just laugh.
Would just laugh
He
loudly.
would just laugh. I kind of approach art like how the Joker is, where he sees the world for what it really is. Yeah, this is all one cruel joke. We might as well just laugh, enjoy it, and that's what he does. So this all he does is pure entertainment for
Yeah,
himself.
yeah.
And he's such a selfish little asshole.
What do you remember of your audition for Art the Clown?
That was my first time really auditioning for a lead character in a film too. So I was very nervous, and I go into the audition holding room and I see all these people have scripts in their hand, and I was never given a script. So I go up to the front desk and I'm like, may I have a script? And they're like, oh, you should have gotten one from your agent. I'm like, oh God, no. And they call me into the room, and I'm like, I am so sorry. No one gave me a script. If I can just get one, I can come back in just a few minutes and give you guys something. They're like, oh, don't worry about it. You don't need a script. Art doesn't talk. I'm like, okay, cool. So what do I do then? What do you want me to do for you? And they're like, Damon's like, just come up with a scene where you decapitate somebody and you're happy about doing it and go. And so right there on the spot, I had to improvise a scene where I decapitate somebody very happily. And so I did this whole thing where I snuck up behind him cartoonishly and knocked him out. And I take out a saw and like saw off his head and pick it up and I taste it. And I don't like the taste of it. So I take out some salt and season it. I like it and I skip out and go on my little merry little way. Once Damien and Phil had recovered from that, they're like, so how are you with makeup? Apparently I basically had booked the role right there on the spot,
Wow.
which hardly ever happens in the film world.
Did you have to work after a lot at home? Because like he's a silent character, because he's not
Mhm.
Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees. He's so expressive.
Yeah,
He
well, I really didn't have to because my whole entire life I've been working on that. I always did physical comedy, especially
oh
with the
good.
children's theater. I grew up watching the great physical comedians, all the way from, Buster Keaton, Charlie Chaplin, all the way up to Jim Carrey and Rowan Atkinson, who's Mr. Bean. And I had a great mentor for the 5 years I toured with How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the musical. I came straight from doing Grinch to the next year doing Terrifier. But I also realized, and it dawned on me 2 years ago when I was at a cousin's wedding, a lot of my mannerisms, especially facial expressions and my hand gestures, come from my aunt who is deaf. Anytime I'd interact with my aunt who was over at our house all the time, it was just everything's very big and broad and exaggerated. And I realized that when I was talking to her at the wedding, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is where it comes from. So it's when I took on art, it just so much of this just seemed naturally organic. He was already living in my head. I just didn't know he was already there this whole entire time.
And you became a nightmare for clown companies, I guess.
Yeah, oh yeah. And real clowns. I've had actually real clowns be upset with me. They're like, you're ruining it for all of us.
Oh
You're
yeah.
making kids scared of clowns. I'm like, I'm sorry, but I think John Wayne Gacy did that originally, but
That's true. But it's funny how you went from doing stuff for kids to extreme horror. Were there
yeah.
like awkward moments where you explained to your family what you were doing?
What's even more awkward is I don't have a degree in theater. I have a degree in elementary education. I used to be an elementary school teacher. So I worked with kids. Kids have always been a big, huge part of my life. I love children. And I did voiceover work for children's shows. I actually lost a voiceover job halfway through recording a whole entire season because they realized I played Art the Clown. As you saw in Terrifier 3, we have a lot of children in
Yeah,
Terrifier
I
3.
know. It's
And I talked to production. It's like before we film, I want to make sure I meet the children.
Mm.
I want to put the children at ease. I don't want them afraid of me on set.
Those kids in 10 or 12 years, they will see Terrifier 3 and say, "What? My parents let me play it."
Yeah, especially that scene.
I even read there's been an increase of sales in sunflower glasses.
Yeah. I think whoever made those originally was probably at first they're like, why is everybody buying our glass all of a sudden? That are probably now like, oh, thank you so much.
What do you do after a day's work to
I
clear
s-
your head?
I usually just take a shower and go to bed.
Go to
I
bed.
as Yeah, it really doesn't affect me that much
Okay.
because I know it's all fake. And even when I'm on set, I'm usually joking around and doing silly voices and stuff like that, trying to keep things light and fun because I know some of the stuff we're doing is very morbid and stuff like that. So
Yeah.